Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. I am your humble host, Mr. David Null, also known as Hawkeye Two Feathers. All right. I always greet you with love and honor and wisdom, healing from the infinite creator. And the last few days have been rather insightful, if you will, at least on my part. I've had some wonderful discussions with people about different things. And I realized that um, there are a lot of folks going through things right now and learning to use their new awareness. And there's so many people. Now I'm going to state right here in front everybody what I may bring up later on in this conversation. I am not picking on anyone. I do this with humbleness, respect for every single person who is on the journey to awareness, to spiritual reality, and to overcome the bonds of this 3D reality. I pray every day for folks who I don't know. There are several times every day I visit in chats, I drop in here, I read this, I watch that, and I'm sending prayers out to people left and right. Now, something that it's been brought up in other areas, but I hadn't thought about it in my own reality. And it has to do with 12 dimensions. It has to do with dimensions. It has to do with the reality of dimensions. Now, I'm going to speak on some really heavy stuff. So go get your coffee. I'm telling you. And I see there's two folks that are sitting in here. Greetings, and I send my love. This is going to be a really deep conversation. So, and I don't want anyone to be upset with some of the things I might speak about because everyone, as I have stated, is on their own journey. Now, I'm going to discuss shamanism. As a person who has been walking the red road, I have been taught by several different medicine men and women. And the word shaman, medicine man, medicine woman, if they're a true medicine person, then they are a shaman. Now, they might disagree, but in my studies and everywhere and the people that I've met, it is the walk of a shaman. Now, a person who is a medicine woman may say, well, no, really, I'm a medicine woman. But if she is truly a true medicine woman, then she is walking the way of the shaman. You can't have one without the other. It just is. Now, it's kind of hard to like pick a beginning with this discussion. And people have different realities of what shamanism is. And I think in a previous video, I know in a discussion I was having with a friend of mine, and I realized that it ticks me off when some of these, and I got to say this, but I will. It is with respect, but it has to do with like present condition, past condition, really past condition, and long, long, long time, long standing kind of thing. For example, the term shamanism or shaman. Now, I'm not going to get into what everybody might think about it. We're just going to go with this, okay? So, I'm not trying to be technical here, but I am going to try to explain some things about shamanism because I have walked it. And I realize that there are people now, I use this term, I have to use it because this is the new age right now that we're in. And in this new age, there's information out there. Okay. This new age information about shamanism seems to be like, oh, well, I took DMT a couple of times and I walked with the spirit in the desert and now I'm a shaman. And what they say and what they claim is disrespectful to me, but I think about all the shamans and all the people who taught me, and I think to myself, these people are disrespecting. It's dishonorable that they can even make the claim when they can't even pass the basic fundamental tests of what a shaman would be. Now, one of the first things that a shaman, man or woman, medicine man, medicine woman, healer, anyone who is truly walking the path of a shaman, which is simply being very spiritual, okay? Is there anything magical in it? It is when you learn how to use the natural magic and when you can tune into the natural tune of things, when you can speak to a plant before you pick it to make sure that it will work in your medicine bag. I mean, there are things that there are so many layers and levels to this. Now, I bring this up because, and I'm going to use the New Ager thing. In this New Age movement, there are like, everybody's talking about 12 dimensions. And I'm looking at it and I'm okay, yeah, all right, all right, all right. But then the question was asked to me or presented to me. And I realized in my shamanic training and with those who taught me, there are no there if you limit yourself with 12 dimensions, then you don't get it. And I don't mean to be rude, but in the way of a true shaman, there is no limit to the dimensions. There is no limit to awareness. The awareness is always, it is ever present. We can always tap into it. And the way of a shaman is to learn how to walk that path and be able to collect and send the energy and the desired prayer, if you will, outwardly, sometimes spoken, sometimes in dance, sometimes with a ceremony. If the shaman, it needs to really be intent, then there are 2 or 3 days of fasting before the person even begins the beginning of the ceremony. The ceremony starts 3 days before you plan the ceremony. And so I bring this up because there are some very spiritual people, but I have to be the grown up in the room. But first off, I want to say I mean them no disrespect for what they know, but their terminology. And if they claim to be a shaman, then you got to find out, have you walked this, and this? And well, I went out in the desert and did DMT. No, please answer my questions, please. And a true shaman will look at you and say, why do you want the answer? Not, oh, well, I saw these beautiful, and okay, I'm going to leave it at that. If someone is true and wishes to be a true shaman, then there are things you must experience. You can't half step. You can't think about, well, I wonder what it would feel like, or you listen to someone else's experience and you empathize with them and you try to relive it through that. That doesn't work. And I say that because I have been on many soul journeys and walkabouts and so forth. And when I think I got it all together, and well, what's spirit going to show me next? That I've at the time, many years ago, of course, I got this big aha moment yesterday and last night and early this morning. And I have to look at this and go, I got it. As much as I feel beat up at the moment, I have to have this discussion because it's serious. And I want to make sure that you all understand that I'm going to try to explain this in a way that makes sense. Okay. And so I've asked him if I start repeating myself to literally slap me and stop me. Okay. So I'm going to try to be as straightforward as possible. And I see folks over there inside, and my rule. If I start looking at your stuff, I get sidetracked. So please, I love you. Have your conversation and I'll pick you up in a little bit. But here we go with this, okay? So as a walk, at the walk of a shaman, and it doesn't really matter what country you're in. I mean, I've studied Celtic, I've studied Germanic and stuff over there in Romania. I've studied things in South America. I've studied things in Mesoamerica, from maybe Nicaragua north, and there's a lot of different things going on through there. You would just not believe unless you studied some of these things. But when you choose and see, and I've met some medicine men from Venezuela, from Colombia, and done ceremonies with them for sunrise ceremonies and things at powwows. Absolutely phenomenal. Their uh, regalia that they use and the spiritualism that just walks with these people. Unbelievable. You can feel the energy, and all they do is just smile at you and say good morning, and whoa, and it's like son of a bitch. Yeah, and I look around to other people and go, do you what do you think of the guy? Well, he's just an Indian from Venezuela. No, he's not, but okay. Then you're not seeing what I'm seeing. And very few people actually saw what I witnessed, which was this glowing aura around this medicine man who did this morning sunrise celebration. And I had the opportunity to spend 4 days with him, and we talked. He showed me things. We walked the mountain. We went outside. We had conversation. And that was just one little touch of the people that I have met and spoke with from literally all around the world. Okay. So now I'm not bragging about this. I have to tell you these things because you say, well, Dave, where the hell did you get your information? I met this person. I know personally a legend keeper from the Tlingit tribe in Alaska. I was his guest to go to Alaska and sit with the elders, and I couldn't get a plane ticket. I couldn't go, and I was like, lifetime to be able to go and sit with the elders and retell the legends. Oh my God! But I've had the opportunity over many years. I mean, his name is Kashka LaRue, and I'm not sure if the gentleman is still alive. He was in his 80s several years ago. But to the point, though, he told me legends, which now the state of Alaska has allowed those legends. They still can't write them down because they're strictly verbal. And I mean, they use some very strict. They're very strict about their storytelling, and it's not a story; it's a legend. So I tell you these things because these are the type of people I have sat with, I have broke bread with, I have prayed with, I have done ceremonies with. So when people go and start using the name, well, I did this and now I'm a shaman. I got to say, where's your lineage? What's the history of what you learned? Who are the teachers that actually taught you? Can you name them? Can you explain what they did? Can you relate some of the story? Because if you're a true shaman, and if the seeker is being honest with the shaman, because shamans just don't go around talking about stuff. I'm very rare in this because Creator's been kicking my ass to do these videos for people. That there are certain things that you do, like a child. You must learn to walk first. Well, actually, you got to learn to crawl. But we're assuming that we have, if we're on this spiritual journey, once we begin the spiritual journey, we have just stood up. When you stand up in the spiritual journey and say, okay, I'm going down the red road or the shaman road or medicine man or woman or whatever, this is the way I want to go. I want to learn this. I want to understand earth magic. I want to understand the healing, the goodness, and all of the. It is true. There is power with it, but you must be true to heart in order to do it. Otherwise, you become part of the dark side. And yes, there are. I have seen skinwalkers that when certain. I know of two different medicine people who were doing ceremonies, and during the ceremony, a skinwalker attached to them. And when they came out of the ceremony, they weren't the same person. And one of them was a dear friend of mine. And I was like, oh my God, now how do we fix this? And I won't go into much detail about that, except that there were people who were literally chanting spells for this to occur and for that entity to stay attached, regardless of all of the clean earth ceremonies that we were performing to rid him of it. When he left here, he was still horribly attached. I've not heard from him in 4 years. So I just send prayers out to my friend and hope that everything is well. But someone did some nasties to him and stuck an evil to him. Now, with that said, if you say, okay, this is what I choose, by speaking those words, then you have chosen it. If you wish to back out, then you better not speak the words. Your intent needs to be of pure of heart from the very beginning. You must be clean of thought, at least in that not somebody's not holding a gun to your head going, you're going to learn to be a shaman. It's got to be in you. You got to know it. You got to be born with it. There's something about nature. There's something about plants. And you can still live in a city. Now, I did for a while. But to the point, though, the urge with me was so strong, I had to find this place where I live now. And I've been here almost 40 years now. And so it's like every time I try to get out of here, it's like Creator drags me back and says, I'm telling you, I went through this hurricane with very little damage to the house, a lot of trees and things, but, other people's houses were drenched, slap banged, and I'm very, I came by very unscathed in the whole scheme of things when there could have been some severe damage around here. But anyway, so I do feel protected. And of course, I got, 100 or more different, and I'm not lying about having 100 types of different crystals and rocks around my place. I seriously do. But that when I began the journey of shaman, I was first told, you must first learn about the rocks. And while you're looking at rocks, you need to go look at plants. And I was like, well, okay. No, you need to go learn about rocks. Well, now I have mineral books. I've got books on geology. I've been in North Georgia mountains, all over Sapphire Valley. I've panned for gold in some places. In some places, a lot of people wouldn't even go. I've been in wilderness areas on the Buffalo River in Arkansas and up in the Ozarks and all through there. I know some secret places up in there that are actually, I would like to know how to activate them, but they're old Indian relics and there are portals there. You can see the outline in the rock, and it's like, springs coming out of the side of the mountain and dumping out. Oh my gosh, high energy. So Creator has led me to many places in my journey. Led me to mountaintops. It's led me into swamps. But what I had to learn was what Mother Nature was. Now, I've followed folks like Buddha and that, and read stories. Now, I've never been to India, but I knew people who went to India and come back. And they were like, there's such a spirituality with a lot of people because everywhere they walk, they're in prayer. And then I was like, well, that's just kind of cool. And so as they're walking, and I've come to think of it, a friend of mine brought these back from the Great Wall of China. They're two brass bells, and they walk around. And I haven't done this in a while, but as you walk, you get a rhythm, and they'll ring together in a harmony. And they walk around, and the Buddhist monks and people, they buy these things and they just walk around. And as they're walking, and it's to keep evil spirits away. And so that the Creator or their God, whichever it may be, Buddha, but Buddha never wanted to be a God. It just that he achieved the ability to be a Buddha, not a God. A lot of people mistake that. Buddha wasn't a god and never wanted to be worshipped. He was like, no, because it ain't about that. You know, somebody made a statue of me, I'd be pissed. I mean, like, what? No, it's not about that. No, it's about the spirit. You know, but they adored him so much, they revered him that they made the statues. And then people came to quote worship his image. Well, you know, okay, if you want to focus on something, but they have these bells made out of brass. There are inscriptions on the top of each one of these in Chinese, in like a Sanskrit kind of thing. And so when I'm in a, you know, the special mood, then I use these bells to bring in that, to help bring in that energy, if you will, or to ring in the prayer that I have, or whatever that may be. So, and it depends seriously on whatever ceremony or prayer or meditation maybe that I'm trying to achieve. All right. But going back to the learning about rocks and metals, because different metals do different things, and I'm really attracted to brass and copper. I mean, and silver. Um, but gold, please, if gold gets around me, it's like, you know, no, don't like it. Just never have. It's almost like it hurts, and which is kind of strange in that respect. I guess, you know, I can't be a vampire because I love silver, so, or a werewolf, not yet anyway. Uh, but so my shaman teacher began me with, okay, go learn about the rocks. And it wasn't, you know, okay, you know, I've always liked geology and that kind of thing. Anyway, as a kid, camper, Boy Scout, blah, blah, blah. So I get books and I go looking and I go to the mountains and I go here and I look at the different terrains. And I know I've been in caves that a lot of people don't even know exist, because they're still hidden around this area where I live. And I'm still hesitant about talking about some of these places, but they're on private property. If you know the right people, you can get into some of these caves. And I'm here to tell you, man, I have stood on a 30-foot rock that it was still 30 feet to the ceiling and couldn't see the end of these huge caverns that I was in. And that's down here in Southwest Georgia. But anyway, to the point of that, though, so I've been inside the earth in a lot of places, and I felt what it's like to be 1.5 to 2 miles deep in a cave that only a very few people know freaking exist, let alone where you might be, you know. And we got lost in there once, and I've had the opportunity to be down there 12 times. Curious 12, by the way. And taking many people down, and the experience of, you know, what it's like to just sure enough be in a, you know, maybe a couple hundred people ever been in that cave, you know, wow, that's like nobody's been there kind of deal. Um, so in the shaman way, what about plants, Dave? Well, what about them? Well, plants are more than just plants. They are. Okay, lesson number one. Plants aren't just plants. Then what are they? They're living beings. But it's a plant. Well, I know it's alive. It's more than that. Plants have a consciousness. Uh, what? Lesson number one. You need to understand that plants, trees, lettuce, tomatoes, doesn't matter. If it's a plant, it has a consciousness. House plants, whether you eat them or not, doesn't matter. They have a consciousness. Grasp your head around that one and get back to me. So I'd check in, blah, 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 blah. We have discussions. Have you meditated with a tree yet? Well, no, but I love trees, been sitting under them for a lot of years. So I think it was easier for me to meld with a tree because there was something natural in the way I just like to lean up. You know, I was a tree climber, man. Oh, man, there wasn't a tree I couldn't climb back in the day. And all us kids in the neighborhood, we was climbing everything. We had tree houses and all through the neighborhood. But anyway, so there was a certain affinity with me and trees going way back. And so it's like, okay, now you're going to go meditate with a tree. you're going to become a leaf. I'm going to what? You're going to become a leaf. You need to allow your spirit to meld with the tree, and you need to allow yourself to be a leaf and reach to the top of the tree. You need to be a leaf up there. Just tell the tree you want to go to the top. You want to see what it's like. Pray, meditate, be kind, be generous, respectful, ask. So it gives me, these things, protocol, if you will. No, okay. Well, first couple times is like, wow, this is kind of groovy, and then when I synced with my first real tree, I was at the top of this thing and I was not tripping. I may have smoked a couple of tokes of a joint, but that part of it is you got to be within your own mind, because what good is it if you are on something and you could very well have imagined that you became part of the tree. So you have to do these things with two tokes off a joint ain't going to mess with this. But if you try to do this like, oh, I'm going to get stoned, go talk to nah, sorry, your heart's not in it then. You don't really want to be a shaman. And so you have to follow protocol. And there's a reason for it. It's not to make you, sometimes things are painful, because if you don't ever get hurt, then how are you going to know? For example, okay, so let me finish with the tree. All right. So when I first had my tree experience, and I went back and I spoke with my medicine person, and I said, oh, holy cow. He said, okay, I want you to describe it to me in great detail. And I did what it felt like. I could feel myself going up in the tree. I could feel myself as part of all the other molecules and the sap running up into the top of the tree. And it felt like I was in an elevator, but I was surrounded by all this wonderful stuff. And it allowed me to go up into the tree. And then it was sort of like, where do you want to go? And I was like, I don't know. I've never been in you before. Where's the best place to get a good view? Was my thought as I'm going up the trunk elevator with the tree. It was like, okay. And there was like this, it was kind of humorous because it was sort of like a little bit of giggling. And it was almost like the leaves were talking, going, well, there's a really good view over here. And what about over here? So it was almost like there was this competition. Well, you could go up over this tree limb and end up over here. And I was just like, show me, just take me up. I just want to be in the top of the tree. And when I got there, I was like, oh my God, I could see all around, and I got to weave in the breeze. And this was all without being stoned high or on DMT or any kind of LSD or hallucinogen. OMG. So then when I went back to him, he was like, cool. Now go back and talk to the rocks. And I was like, but they're rocks. And he goes, and you thought trees and plants were just there, didn't you? And I was like, well, yeah, point taken. And he was like, but now what do you know? And it's like, damn, these tree, and this was a silly ass remark, but this is what I say. Well, I know at least trees have a consciousness. And it was like, what? Is that all you learned, Dave? And I was like, wait, hang on. Oh, well, actually. And then he says, haven't you ever laid in the grass as a kid and looked up at the sky? Yeah. Haven't you ever felt how cool the grass was and it tickled you? Yeah. Haven't you just felt kind of, almost like when you closed your eyes that you were almost floating in the clouds? Yeah. The grass is alive. Oh shit. You had a trip on grass. What? And so, think about it. So lesson 1, now you've learned about trees and you're learning about plants, go back and talk to the rocks. So I had to digest that information about this. And it's not just that you are aware, oh, okay, there's a plant over there. I know it's alive. It's much deeper than that. You have to go speak to it. You have to let it speak back to you. You have to interact with the plant. You have to understand it on a level that you can't really see. Now, some people can see it. For me, it's like it's a blind. Well, even the blind can really see, but I digress on that. But that's like around number 3. So I went and talked to rocks, and I learned that OMG, crystals. I realized that I had picked up crystals in the mountains and on camping trips without knowing that they were crystals. I had them in my little rock collection as a Boy Scout. And I was like, then when I grew up, I was like, some bitch, I got that as a kid. I didn't even know what it was, but it just felt good. And I would like take it with me. Ooh, come on, Rock, let's go for a ride. Oh, we're going camping. Come on, Rock. Little did I know in those years what I was actually doing. So when he told me to go speak to rocks, I started having memories of little conversations, I guess, me as a goofy kid, that I had picked up certain rocks. They've held something for me, and holy crap. So I had actually been speaking with rocks. I had been interacting with the energy. So, but this was step 2. This is 102. All right. Then when I go back and say, okay, I get it. I really do. I had no idea. I'm still learning, but I get it now. I get where you're talking about it. I have put my hands on a crystal and felt energy in lifetimes and dimensions. And I've said, oh my God, I kind of knew all this before. I just didn't tie it all together. Okay. Part 3. Step number 3, Dave. Okay. Now it's time for you to learn how to walk in the dream world. What's that? So we had a conversation, and I explained to him that when I was a child, that I used to have a magic pillow. And it was a feather pillow. Man, I miss that pillow. But, even after 55 years, I miss that pillow. But I could fly with that pillow. Weirdly, it was a feather pillow. So, but that I literally used that pillow and would astral travel in my dreams. But when I had disagreement with parents and I was living on the street and blah blah blah. Anyway, not part of the story, but that I didn't have the pillow, and I was frightful because I felt like I couldn't do my dream flying. So when I described it to my shaman, he was like, then you understand that it can be done. And there were a couple of instances where someone came in the room and I was hiding up in the corner with my pillow, and I watched everything in the room and then went back into my body really quick. The next morning, they described, to me, David, you look like you were dead last night. Me and your dad looked in. Oh, holy shit. I watched the whole thing in my spirit body up in the corner of the room. It was the right side. That's why I rated my right arm. I can still remember that. But to the point, though, it's like, so he says, okay, so now what you need to do is you need to learn how to train yourself how to do it. And he gave me exercises and etc. So that now I can, he said, what you need to learn how to do is how to tell time. And I've done this in a previous video, but I'll briefly tell you now, it's not hard. I got a clock back here on the wall. That's my clock. And if I want to know what time it is when I'm outside, I think of that clock. And I don't try to guess what time it is. I look at the clock. And my mind will go to that clock and show me within 5 minutes almost every single time. I quit. It happens so many times now. I just know. But back when I was there, I did it right. I was within 3 minutes. Holy crap, I got it right on the nose. So what it is it brings you to a different awareness. It allows you to understand there's something else out here. And you should use it every day rather than wear a watch. I got so good. I would just think, what time is it? Now, I one of my in my truck, I got a little digital. So I would look at that, but for a long time when I was doing carpentry work, I would just say, okay, and I would just close my eyes for a half a second, just blink, just enough to get a clear picture and read what time it was. And I was always within just a couple of minutes. 10 minutes either way was okay with what I was doing. But to the point though, you can be very accurate 100% of the time, but you must practice this. Now, what are these little baby steps? Well, this is all foolishness. No, it isn't. Because if you don't have these basic understanding and these basic skills, then what's going to come next, you're not really going to fully understand. That's what he said to me. And I was like, okay, I get this. All right, now that you've learned how to play with, you can see the clock, that was like 3A. 3B was, okay, see if you can project your mind from your bed or a recliner or something into the next room and tell me what you see and write it down when you get back to your, to your body space. I did that. And come to find out that, oh my God, I was really freaking accurate. And there were things that I could see in my spirit body in the next room that I didn't notice when I walked in there in my physical body. It was like something over in the corner was like, I always knew it was there. But when I'd walk into my spirit body, I'd go, where in the hell did that picture come from? Oh yeah, that's right. But when I walked in as me into the same room, I wouldn't even notice the picture. So it's really strange. But what it does with your reality is it bumps it up a notch. Now, can you say, well, is there any way to quantify or qualify what you're talking about, Dave? No. And I called it in the description of this, it's layers. It is. It's like a cake. You're going to build a multi-layer cake. And for everything that you learn, that's one layer. But you have to start somewhere. And Mother Earth is the basis for all of it. And every time I see people stray from Mother Earth, then they are also strayed in their thought process and in their spirit, and something just changes. And I don't know what it is. And I'm not trying to qualify, or say, well, no, it's just it's like they stopped or they had to go back a ways or they're in retrograde. I don't know. But something happened and versus them continue like the float up, instead of continuing up the tree as a metaphor in this, they only get a third of the way up and they never really reach the top of the tree. And it's like, why'd you stop there? Well, no, I guess this was good enough. And I'm like, what? No, it's really cool up at the top. But to the point, though, it takes practice. All right, so step number 4 was, I grew up in Florida, and it's hotter than a pickle down there in the summertime, Well, wintertime too, actually, Oh, it gets to be 60 degrees and everybody's got the furnace on and bundled up, It's 60 degrees in my house right now, and I'm like, it's almost too hot. But anyway, that's how it goes sometimes. But in part of the shamanic training, you need to be able to control your own body. So one thing was the control of breath. So I used to do a lot of swimming back then. So it was like, how long can you hold your breath? Well, I don't know. How long can you hold your breath? Just dive in, just go in, sit on the bottom and hold your breath. I don't know. Well, then I got to the point, so time yourself. See how long you can stay down. And it was like, but why? Because it's control. You control your fear. Well, I'm going to drown. Well, no, the surfaces is right there. The thing is that if you try to hold your breath without being underwater, it's like, it works. And I've used it and I practiced it when I was in the hospital many years ago. Excuse me, coffee drink. But he said, no, because it's control. And I've learned this just a few years ago when I was almost drowned in the Ochlockonee River. And I realized what he meant about the breathing. because I got sucked underwater. Something grabbed my leg. Anyway, and for another day. But I realized that it was in that moment of panic that was really more than just a moment. It was several minutes I was under the water. That had I not had enough of that control, I really would have drowned in that situation because I was that close to not making it. And it was really nasty. Cold. I got stage 3 hypothermia, rough. Made it through. Didn't even go to the hospital. That's because of my training. That's because of what the next step is in this. How to deal with, how to control your body. Can you hold your breath? How long? Well, it's not just how long. How long can you hold your breath if you were in an emergency situation without panicking and blowing all the water out of your lungs, which is one of the first things some people do. And it's like, you can't do that. I've got kayaks and canoes, and I've been tipped over a number of times. And the first thing you do is don't panic, period, because that'll kill you first. And that's part of the lesson. So don't panic. Go out there and dump your canoe over on purpose or whatever. Okay. And it be in cold water. Oh, by the way, in winter. What? Yeah, because the lesson is it's not only cold. It's not just that you flipped over in the water, but now it's cold. It's wintertime. Now, why in the hell do you want me to learn that? Because there's a lesson in there. Now, you can bail out anytime. You don't have to go. But if you wish to learn this lesson, then you must learn that. Now, to Native Americans, they're up on a mountain, they're sitting there exposed for a day. Some, I can't remember the ceremony right now. I mean, they're hung up, they're strung up. It's a big deal, big dance. I was actually invited to it one summer, about 8 years ago now. It was, about 2009, 2010. And I just couldn't, it was on the Pine Ridge Reservation in South Dakota, by the way. I had a personal invitation to go to that. And man, I wish. Sundance ceremony, that's what it is. It lasts for 3 days. It actually lasts longer than that. But I mean, they continuously drum and dance for 3 days. It's amazing. And the energy and oh my God. Now, to white folk or Westerners or, anyone who's never actually been seriously around, paid attention to, was empathetic towards any real native ceremony, will not understand some of this. And I don't mean that you can't understand it if you're not Native American. That's not what I mean. My point is that it has to do with what we as human beings connect to the earth. The reason these braves and these people are able to go through what they do is because they are relying on Mother Earth to sustain them through these hardships. And it's tough. If you're even got a little wuss in you, you ain't gonna make it. It's tough. You got to be a tough son bitch. And people say, "Oh, I could do it." I'm a tough son bitch, and I don't know if I could do it. And I've been through some rough things, but I watch these other people and I go, but they are drawing upon the spirit of themselves, and they're using Mother Earth. There's a combination of energies there. And do I say you got to go stake yourself out in the middle of a field for 3 days? No. But can you go a day without food if you just go to the local park? Can you? I mean, seriously, take one 16-ounce bottle, glass, no plastics in this, please, bottle of water, and that's it for a day, a whole day. Don't care if it's hot, cold, medium, in between. Don't care. Don't like eat a bunch before you go. No, you should eat like 6 o'clock in the evening the night before. Fast that evening. You can have something to drink, maybe milk, but other than that, nope, just water. Fast the entire next day. Just go to the park. Just do whatever you want to do. Don't eat. No food. And don't think about it. I'm just doing this day without food. I'm not hungry. Something happens, take a sip of water. And I don't mean drink of water. I'm talking sip. And let that one glass bottle, 16-ounce water, last you the entire day. That's just the beginning of what you need to understand about how to control your own body, how much you really, really need versus what you think you need or what the public has told you need. And I've watched some of these Braves, women too, but mostly men, and they run for 2 or 3 miles and they don't even break a sweat. They stop and it's like, one or two deep breaths, and they're like just standing there like nothing's happened, and it'd be like 30 degrees outside, and they're basically in a pair of shorts and moccasins. Like crap, I met a Lakota medicine man from Pine Ridge. In fact, he was the gentleman that asked me to go out to Pine Ridge. It was by his invitation, and he was a descendant of Crazy Horse. Now, I mean, he really did. He looked like Crazy Horse. He was a stout man, not really stocky, but stout. And even at his age, he carried himself. And when I asked him, I said, "So how old are you?" And he said, "I'll be 82 next year." And he's strutting around. It was like 30 degrees and sleet blowing sideways at this powwow in Tennessee that year. And he was just standing out there with a buckskin on, his moccasins, just regular buckskin, no jacket, no nothing. I'm standing there freezing my ass off. And I'm like, "Aren't you cold?" And he looked at me and he smiled and he said, "I'm from South Dakota." And I was like, then when I went to South Dakota, I realized, oh, I get it. Oh my God. He's from South Dakota. In Tennessee, it was like, it was a blustery afternoon for him. I was like, holy crap. But you see, though, that it also has to do with it. I wasn't as bundled up as a lot of the other people were. I was actually outside where everybody else was in a tent around a heater. And so I was mad enough to be outside in this sleet and snow in Tennessee with this medicine man having conversations. And I'm like, but you see, that's part of it. It's part of the fact that with his strength, I realized he's not cold. He's at the time I was in my 50s. I was like, this some bitch is 35 years older than me, man. And I'm being pathetic. And he's just standing there like, "Dum." And so where does this strength come from? It comes from the land. It comes from the understanding of these other things. It comes with training yourself to know that, okay, so it gets cold. I'm not going to die. If you're still breathing, you're not going to die. Now, can you? Now, I've seen some people who I thought were really stout individuals, went winter camping with them, and it dropped into the 20s or upper teens up there in the mountains, snow on the ground, and these people are freaking out. And I'm like, well, chill. I stripped down to nothing, took a shower. It was 22 degrees, and I'm butt naked by the campfire. I wanted a bath so bad, and I heated up some water. And these guys over there are going, "Oh, fuck my God." And I'm like, what a bunch of wusses you guys are. They're like camouflage, And I'm like, what is wrong with you people? Now, I really don't like cold water. Me and cold water do not get along, but I'll take the cold with hot water. But anyway, so I got, I can do it, but I'm gonna heat that freaking water. Sorry about that. Now it doesn't have to be steaming, but I'm not into the cold water, But anyway, so and that's one of the things that's been a really hard lesson for me is to deal with cold water. Now I have been through some very serious cold water issues, drownings and overturnings and situations, got stuck in a wilderness area, and we're going through a mud puddle, and the damn mud puddle somehow, instead of only being like maybe this deep, was actually, there was a great big washout there. And It was actually like 3 feet deep. So it was sort of like watching one of those old silent movies with Buster Keaton, where he's walking along and there's a mud puddle and they just drop in. That's exactly what happened to the truck. And we couldn't get it out. I mean, I literally had to strip down to a pair of shorts. It was freezing. I mean, it was like 30 degrees in the daytime, snow on the ground. And the mud puddle had ice, that was this thick floating in it. Had to get in it to get under the tire to be able to get the truck. It was for 3.5 hours and didn't freeze. It was that evening that I had to take that shower, by the way. But anyways, people were just freaking out about, well, and I said, you have to put your mind against it. If you wish to survive, and there was no way I was going to get stuck on that freaking mountain. I had everything I needed to get off of it. It was in the middle of this big ass mud puddle full of ice. It was cold as shit. So, but you have to have the inner determination to get through some of these things. Now, that wasn't one of my tests, but it was a test because I had been tested earlier, so that when I got to this incident of, wilderness camping and got myself stuck in this situation, it was like, well, damn, I made it through. Other people would have freaked. Other people would have left the truck and tried to walk back, 15 miles back through off the mountain to try to find, a house. And, long way to go. And not many houses if you hit the road. So it would have been a long walk. And I was like, no, I'm all my stuff's here, my camping gear. If anything, I'm going to set up camp in the mud puddle, But the thing is that you have to learn what you can do with your body and how to overcome it. It is part of the shaman, because how can you understand that you can levitate if you don't understand that you can not freeze to death when you so choose? Now, I'm as an old man, I got to say, I'm having trouble with the heat down here in South Georgia. Now, in a sweat lodge, when I do prayer and meditation, and that's a different story. But the heat outside on a regular basis down here in South Georgia, man, I just can't handle it anymore. But right now it's 60 degrees in the house, and I'm about ready to take this long sleeve shirt off. I'm so warm. But we can acclimate our own temperature. My friend's paying $200 a month for air conditioning. Mine was $50. I run fans, I do certain things, and I acclimate to my temperature. I got a wood heater over here, and I can remember when it got to 60 degrees, I had the heater on. Now I think to myself, oh my God, it's 60 degrees. Why would I be burning wood now to try to heat up the house? I'm comfortable. If I get comfortable at this with a long sleeve shirt, I'm good. But it's a mind over matter thing. So you have to go through some of these trials of some of these things in order to be a true shaman. Does that mean you have to drown in the river? No. But you have to at least go outside. You have to test yourself in certain ways with a hot day. I don't mean stay out in the sun, but just go out underneath a tree, but just take one thing of water. Oh, people are going, oh, you'll die. You'll dehydrate. No, you won't. What you're going to do is you're going to sweat out a lot of toxins. You're going to sweat out a lot of nasties. And if you do some meditations, and if you go into your day with little water and no food, with the right intent, you go in and you say, I'm going to be perfectly fine. 24 hours ain't squat. I already know I have enough water in my body that 16 ounces are going to be enough to wet my whistle. I'm not going to die. And go into it positive. This is going to be a wonderful experience. I'm going to be able to help flush some of these toxins. I'm going to sweat and get some of this stuff out. Fine. Put that positive thought in there beforehand. That's about part 5 of shaman. And we're just starting. These are the layers. And I'm just giving them numbers because that's what we do is in our society. Now, see, I hadn't even gotten into the different layers of spirituality and the different thought processes that go into this. But with all of this, quote, basic training or boot camp, if you will, every bit of it is bringing you into a higher level of reality. It is bringing you into being a shaman because you are now understanding that you are using your own natural abilities, tuned in with Mother Nature, and that with Mother Nature, the spirit, the cosmos, cosmic energy, all of the above, you will realize just how strong of an individual you are, which will also prove to you in many ways just how strong your spirit is. And if you wish to continue the journey of being a true shaman, now folks get to a certain place and they're happy with it rather than they wish to go on. Me, I'm an old part. What the hell? What have I got to lose? Accept knowledge. So it's like, okay, what do you want me to do next? Please, I'd rather not be drowned. But that's getting old. But okay, been there, done that. All right, thank you. Didn't like it, but all right, I'm still here. But to the point though, we need to allow ourselves to go further. That's the point. Now, when I say the 12 dimensions, what I mentioned at the very, very beginning of this video, and again, I mean and I mean this with respect. New Age folks are learning some of these things, but they haven't been taught these very, very, very basic, sure enough, shaman stuff. Because when you can go outside and feel a bird in the tree, you didn't hear it, it didn't sing, but you can feel its presence because it's looking at you. And you turn and go, oh, hi, bird. Out in the middle of the woods, minding your own business, or just somewhere quiet, that your awareness, you'll turn and go, oh, or there, or there, or there, or there, because you have opened up yourself. You've sort of done a meld between the spirit and the body. Because when you're in an extreme situation, I mean, if you're used to 75, 72 degree weather all the time, and you go to the thermostat and turn the thing off. Are you going to die? No. Not unless it's like going to be 40 below or something, but most folks, and the house might get to 50, depending on where you are. I mean, it was 25 degrees out last year and it was 50 in the house. I didn't light a fire because I knew I could 50. That ain't shit. I used to camp and, more than that, but to the point, there was only a day or two. Now, did I heat it up? Yeah, because my legs got cold and I'm getting old, but to the point though, I didn't die. It was 50 degrees in the house. Oh my, no, it's 20 outside. And I feel very comfortable. Thank you very much. Now up in the Andes Mountains and folks, when I was speaking about that medicine person that I had the wonderful chance of meeting in Tennessee and doing the ceremonies with in the morning. But anyway, he was like, up in the mountains, we don't do fires. And I was like, yeah, I kind of wondered about that. Like, where are the trees? Where do you guys get, He goes, well, why would we waste wood to heat ourselves with when we have ourselves? And I was like, huh? Now, I kind of knew what he meant, but how he said it, I was like, what do you mean? Now, Shirley MacLaine, when she did her book and the movie Out on a Limb, she spoke about some of these things back in the 80s and 90s. This goes back a long ways. But she went up to the Andes and to see Machu Picchu and stuff, and she was taken into a stone hut and said, here you go. Here's a blankie. Good night. See you in the morning. And she was like used to quilts and stuff. And then a shaman came to her and spoke to her and said, the cold is in your mind. You can wrap yourself in warmth if you choose. But if you choose to feel cold, you will. And so here's just, I got one of the little blankets over there. I'm not going to get it, but it's just one of those Indian blankets that are woven with patterns in them. No big deal. I have two or three of them, and I'll wrap up in one of those things, and it can be 40 degrees, and I can be warm because I wish to be warm. And I use it to shield off, but I also use it as a barrier. I'm thinking this blanket, and it doesn't have to be one of those. It's convenient for me, and they're comfortable to use for me. And the holes in them, you can shake them out, and they don't hold sand. But anyway, but to the point though, it's like, all right, I surround myself with warmth. You understand that your aura is also your protection. So this is helpful when you get into the next realm and you start exploring higher realms of reality, which I'm fixing to get to. But all of this is important because when you understand that, yeah, it's nice to have a blankie, but that any blankie will do, and it's all in your head, really, that you don't even need a blankie. That if you just think warm, and I've done this, I've been out wilderness and stuff to see if I would survive, knowing that I had the opportunity to like go back to the truck or I could start a fire but I in my now I did things on purpose to because it's practice. You got to stay in practice with learning how to keep yourself warm in a cold situation. So it wasn't like I was putting myself in danger, but it was freaking cold and I didn't have really that much on compared to what other people would be wearing. Nor did I light a fire because that was the whole purpose of my mind walk, if you will. Stay warm, meditate, keep that, and then it brings you to a higher level. And oh my God, does it take you to a higher level? Oh man. But so let's get into all of these things. There are layers within each one. So when you learn about plants, and so as you achieve these different layers of reality, as your awareness rises, and so when you go around plants, it's like you're always talking to them. You're always now aware of them, where before they were just plants. Now when I walk outside, it's like I see them all. I see the weeds. I see that one. Ooh, look, something new popped up over there. I'm aware of these things. Now, am I aware of every blade of grass? No, but I'm aware of patches of grass or maybe something I have found little tiny things growing from 20 feet away and went, whoa, what's that over there? And walked over it, and it'd be a plant that I dropped some seeds from something and it came up on its own, a volunteer. So it's like, but when you practice these things, when it opens up your awareness in stages, in layers and layers and layers. And now some people might call that dimensional thinking, or that they've reached certain different planes of reality with this. And I can see where, yes, that is very similar, but there's a lot more, and I'm fixing to get into that. I'm going to take a sip of coffee and get my prop. I have a prop. I'm going to speak about the great Mandela. I'm not going to go into too much, but it goes back into I have, before I went full flung into my shaman walk, I was walking in a Celtic way, sort of kind of Wiccan-ish. Um, but it maybe you might even say sort of sorcery, but only in earth magic. Nothing with casting spells or love potions, nothing like that. If anything, it was just healing. How can I heal this or trees, or how can I make something better? So I've never, and it's hard for me to even fathom why I would want to wish harm on someone. Now, there's been a few people who've done some really crappy things to me and other people, and I've wished harm on them because of them. But and even that, I'm glad I didn't really get pissed off. But anyway, because I realized that any one of us can do great harm with this power that you learn about yourself. Well, I can literally walk through walls in a way. Yeah. Because when you understand, and I mean that in that I know that I have had the knowledge of being able to literally pass through a wall because you just pretend it's not there and you just go. How come a bumblebee can fly? because he doesn't know he can't. So we've been taught that we can't do so many things. And to learn to be a shaman is to learn all the things we should have already known. It should just be natural. Now, to many people, they're going to be called supernatural. Now, I'm going to get into this next higher level. And now there may be those folks who go, well, I can't believe I have to go through these things. You don't have to. It's your choice. You don't have to be on the walk of a shaman. But my point is, there are people who are claiming they're shamans when they don't have any of this basic information. That's my point. Not about me, but it's about the shamans who truly are the medicine people that I've met. It's a disgrace for these people to even use the word, and I use it cautiously. I'm just Hawkeye Two Feathers, and I have this information. But when I look back at what a shaman is, or what they do, or what the protocol is to like even claim, I realize that I have all of those qualities. I have done the study. I have spent 3 days in ceremony. I have sweat lodged. Yes, yeah, with medicine men. I was given Hawkeye Two Feathers in a ceremony, in a sweat lodge by a medicine man. It was given to me during a ceremony with honor with another dear friend of mine. And So it's like, I was I went through the protocol. And with that, then I really got started after that ceremony. Then I was taught some secrets to the ceremony. Up to that point, before I was officially given my name in that manner, I was given a lot of information and a lot of the basics. And my teacher at the time told me, he said, I don't realize who taught you this. And I said, Spirit. And he was like, you mean in your visions? And I said, yes. So every time you went on a vision quest, and I said, Creator, Spirit, however you want to look at it, came to me and showed me how to do these ceremonies. And he goes, you've almost got it right. He goes, there's only one or two things wrong with what you're doing. Put that on your left and that on your right. Switch places. And I was like, what? And then we had the discussion about the fact that I'm a Heyoki, and that sometimes what most people would put on their left actually belongs on the right for me. It's a backwards thing. It's not a negative, it's an opposite. And I spoke about this in another thing, but anyway, I've been called a Heyoki for 40 years or more. And what that means is that it's a jokester, but it's also Heokis have a lot of power in that they keep the balance. If everybody's too happy, Heyoki says, hey, don't forget all the people that, died of whatever, and at the same time, if everybody's mourning, he like comes out with a dog outfit on and barking. And, the one particular Heyoki story that I remember was this: when things got really blue around the tribe, this Heyoki had this really weird hammer that he made with stuff, and he'd like, pie plates and things, and would wear them, and he would go around and just bang on them, and he'd go bang, 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 hammer, 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 bang, 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 and then just run through the village, or and just bang, bang, bang. And it was just that he was either drawing in good spirits or chasing the bad ones out. But that even though they all knew, oh, that's the old crazy Heyoki, they all knew that he had power in what he was doing, because his purpose was to be this oddball in the group. And he never harmed anybody, didn't ever do anything, very rarely asked for anything, but people always gave to him. He was never want of anything because he was the Heyoki, just like a medicine woman or the old elder woman or man. So it's like, okay, so now let's get into this dimensional thing. That's why I know it's been an hour and I had to discuss this, because folks who use the term shaman really don't get it unless they've just at least engaged in some of these things. And I don't mean just once or twice and, oh, that may, nah, I'm sorry. I still don't consider myself a shaman. I think I will be able to really truly feel like a shaman when I walk from this world into the next. I'm going to be a shaman at that point. That's when I get my degree. Now, let me talk about dimensions. All right. I know y'all been patiently waiting about this. Thank you for hanging in there. And I'm not going to look over there in the chat. It's going to distract me, and I got to keep going with this. One of my first trips into outer space, if you will, taken into the other dimensions, I was taken by a spiritual guide. And I'm kind of fuzzy as about what he looks like, but it's sort of like oh, now I can't think of the movie. Never mind. I was taken out into, quote, outer space, and was standing like in space looking at space. And there were constellations and the colors. Now, this was in the 70s, okay, before we had these kind. I mean, oh, what was it? The 2000 Space Odyssey had just come out, kind of thing. So, and we hadn't even had Star Wars yet. So, some of these graphics and things that I saw in my dream state in my journey were very real, because I didn't see these kinds of things until we started. I didn't start seeing the same colors that I saw in my vision dreams until Hubble started taking deep space pictures. How about that one? So, but when I was taken there, I was shown that this great wheel, like a bicycle wheel without a tire, and that spokes were running all through this, spokes on a wheel. Now, there wasn't necessarily a hub in the middle, but they all passed somehow magically through a single point. They all intersected in the middle somehow, but that was the only point. So he said, in this vision, he said, this, actually, I feel like I was there. This wasn't a vision. But anyway, I mean, I was there. But he said, this is the great mandala of life. And in this great mandala and the circle of life, there are all these spokes. And at first there was like, I don't know, 20. And as he spoke, there were more spokes. That's an interesting thing. So, there were a few. And then it was all of a sudden there was like more. And they just appeared. And then he appeared. And then he appeared. And they appeared. And they appeared. And so as he spoke to me about this, he said, and within that wheel of life, every one of those spokes, and they kept multiplying to the point where I couldn't see the space between them, but I knew there was space between them. And he continued with his story and said, telephone interrupted me. That's okay. I'll call him back. He said to me, he said, every one of those spokes is a dimension, is a timeline, is a lifetime, is a complete different world, complete different galaxies, complete everything. What do you think about that? And I went, holy shit. Because that was the first time I'd ever really seen, envisioned any of these really true high spiritual things, right? So he said, okay, if you think that's cool, wait till next time. All right. So now I'm going to show you what the next time is. In this being a dream catcher. And I'm on the screen, it looks like you should be able to see this pretty well. Now it's two circles. This is one hoop that comes all the way around. This is the second hoop. All right. So when I first went out there in this place, there was only one of these. Okay. A circle with spokes. Now this is a dream catcher, but I'll get to the dream catcher part in a minute because that's important. But I'm going to use this as an example. So when I was taken out to this place the next time, the mandala was there, the spokes are there, and there's more space between them. Buddy says, okay, are you ready for the next one? And I was like, well, okay. So I get taken physically to where I'm looking at the wheel sideways like this. And then he takes me and turns me up to where I'm looking at it on the edge. When I get to the edge, I don't see one ring, I see two, like this. Looks like a cross from above. But he said, each one of these, and then in this 3D realm, he turns me and says, now there's spokes in this one, and there are spokes in this one. And he said, in all of the spokes, all intersect at one source. They all intersect. But each one of these every one of these spokes in these two realities, and this reality is spinning motion. It's in its own little, this is in its own reality. What do you think about that? Holy shit. Back to school I go, right? To mull over this thought, right? But as I'm going, he goes, wait till next time. Okay, now what's the frickin' surprise the next time? The next time is, instead of 4 of these, there are 12 of them. And I picked 12 because it was like 4, they were like in quarters. So where I saw just 4, there were 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. It ended up there were 2 more added in each quarter. All right. And then he said, so those are all connected at one point. And every one of those folks, this is just continuing. Every one of those dimensions, every one of these spheres, every one of these mandalas is an entirety in itself, not a galaxy, but an entirety with galaxies, with stars, with everything. And in that, there are 4. Now there are 12. And he said, wait till next time. And I'm like, all right, this is weird. So next time I go out, because now I'm like, okay, being able to visualize one wheel with spokes, timelines, and like just the idea of exploring that thought. And then seeing this and this kind of thing was like, oh, wow. But then when it went to the 12, and I was like, okay, now what? The next time up, it was up somewhere, wherever that is. I was shown a compass, big compass with all the degrees, 0, 360 all the way around. Because you understand, being a Boy Scout, yeah, I got a compass. I understand the cardinal points. He goes, you see this, 360. Yep. And then he brings up this image. It's like, looking at the top of it, it's like the 360 was sitting at the top of the framework. And then as it was like lifted, I noticed that in this construct, for every degree on that compass point, there was one of these circles. There was a mandala of life. And on that, an infinite number of spokes. And so it wasn't just 1 or 2 or 12. There were, and it was shown to me as 360 simply because I understood what a compass was and how many degrees that was and so forth. And it was like, what do you think about that? And I was almost floored. And he goes, but I'm not done. Because between each one of those spokes, on each one of those mandalas, in each one of those, there are spider webs between them, connecting them, intertwining like a dream catcher, like a spider web, if you will, and that they're not just connected in that one spot, but sometimes the web will touch the ring here, and you follow the string down, and it comes all the way down, then it comes over here, and it attaches over here. So it's not a straight line thing. So this line could be attached down here, then get attached up over here, which then gets attached way down here, that gets brought back up over here. Do you see the visual, what I mean by that? Now, this is a peculiar dream catcher, and also in the middle of this dream catcher is another dream catcher that is a quad. I paid good money for this, and people are like, "You want to sell that?" And I'm like, sorry, this stays with me. But and now I realized why I was given this, because I've not seen another one like this. And that was one of the reasons I bought it. And I realized last night, because it's always like right here, and I looked up there and I went, "That's how I describe this beyond 12 dimensions." Because if you limit yourself with 12, you're going to miss out on all of this. Does that make sense? Because that's what I got. That I think, in the back of my mind, I'm going, what's wrong with this number 12 thing? Well, fifth dimensional thing and a ninth dimensional thing and a blah, blah, blah. And it's like, something didn't set right. And so I've been meditating about it. I've been asking, why is this 12 thing bothering me? There are 12 dimensions. We're going to do the, okay, I get about the different levels. I really do. But it's like that 12 is the ultimate number. And I was wondering why that was bothering me. And I realized because when the shamans and the medicine men teach, or medicine women, always include the powerful medicine women, by the way. I've met some extremely powerful medicine women. I mean, see right into your soul. Boy, howdy. And just next to nature, stand out in a blizzard and not be cold. I mean, tough women and lovely beings. Just, okay, I'm enough of that. But, and I took myself off the topic. But the next thing was, as I got hit with this 360 and the webs in between, as a parting gift, the spirit told me, "Oh, and by the way, one of these with all of 360s and all of this is just one of trillions of these." So all the timelines, all the things, all this other stuff, all the web and everything of these mandalas and the combination of these mandalas, this was one reality with all of these gazillion realities. And this one was just one of another million realities. There were millions more of these, zillions and trillions. And so that you must think, you probably have heard me say this, you got to think there is no box. Why do I say some of the outlandish things I do? When you understand that, to me, 12 is an arbitrary number that somebody in the New Age came up with. Because in my paradigm, in the shaman's paradigm, they're just steps to the infinite. But if you think that 12 is all there is, then you're limiting yourself, because 12 is just, that don't even get you into kindergarten, really, to the grand, greater scheme of things. Now, I know you wouldn't have hung out with me this long if you didn't think there wasn't something in there that was important for me to say. But when I say that source is out there for us at all times, it is. It's there. We can touch it. We can smell it, But when you start doing these basic things like not getting cold when it's 60 degrees, being able to tell time by just closing your eyes for a second, or sometimes you don't even have to do that. I'll just kind of like look up, and the time I'll see it. So in my realization of different time streams and different realities, when you start going into the infinite and allow yourself to express yourself in the infinite. But if you got to say, well, there's 12 and there's this thing, and see, that's why I called them layers, because when you get to one particular layer and you kind of get the feeling, it's all of a sudden there is another layer or whatever it is of reality or spiritualism or whatever, especially when you're working towards the with your intent, that it comes in layers, and sometimes one layer will, sometimes the layers literally feel like they came in from opposite directions, and it almost feels like this, and it's like, wait a minute, it's kind of a strange kind of, then all of a sudden they meld together and you go like, oh wow, there's a whole another layer comes in. I know it's really difficult to explain this, okay? But by saying so and using rocks and trees and things, these are basic things. Because if you can talk to rocks, really talk to rocks, and I don't mean imagine, no, I mean go over and have a conversation, or and the conversation doesn't necessarily have to be verbal. It could be mental. It can be with just simply meditation. But that because you're sharing your energy with the rock, and the fact that you will understand that different rocks have different values and have different frequencies, and healing or not. And it's like, well, I need a healing rock. Well, why not just pick up a rock just for the sake of picking one up? Maybe nobody's held it for a while. Go over and say hi to a rock. Oh yeah, sure, Dave. Wait a minute. See, if you don't understand that statement coming from me, then you're not on the same level of the same layer. Let me rephrase that. You're not on the same layer as me, because I have lots of conversations. I got rocks all around me, one right there and over here. And, I'm wearing a couple, so it's like, but I'm aware of this. But so people who just want to fluff this off and then, term themselves, or, all this spiritual shaman stuff, I got to just say, I'm sorry. You really don't have what it takes at the moment to call yourself a shaman. Not that you're not spiritual, but you have no right to use that word, because unless you can do some of these basic things, unless you have walked in the shoes of these other beautiful beings who were, maybe still are, true shamans, then I respectfully ask you to please use the name. Now, I know you all don't do it, but I'm saying this, I'm putting this prayer out to the universe, because there are folks out there that really, and I try not to let it like get me upset, but I think to myself, and there are people out there who are like really believing it. They got 100,000 subscribers and people are listening to you, they're yammering. And I just want to go, oh my God. And they're limiting people to 12. What? Hang on. Well, there's layers in the 12, and wait a minute. In my world of awareness, there are no numbers. The numbers are infinite in all directions, everywhere, at all times. It's interconnecting, but sometimes only in one place. But there are those spider webs that cross between dimensions, and they very well could be literally time spiders. I know this sound really is weird, but as in time spiders, that they will weave a web between between timelines, between Mandelas, and like a dream catcher. Because what I've learned about Native American shamans in particular, and about some of the stuff that has been going on, it just seems like there's a lot of stuff flying in here, and there's like nothing in the room that's here. Very high energy. It's a rainy night in Georgia, 58 degrees outside kind of deal. But anyway, um, on these layers of reality, there are different awarenesses. And it's like, okay, you'll kind of get a general thing about trees. And then from the tree thing, you go to a shrub or a bush, and then it goes to grass, and then it goes to house plants. And so that layer, you can understand what that layer means. But then as the understanding of that layer grows, that layer expands. So it's like, oh man, I talked with a tree. That's the understanding. But then as that awareness of it grows, that layer grows. So then you're talking to a rock. Well, that rock, you talk to one crystal, you got it, there was something there, you felt it in the palm of your hand. That's the beginning. But as you expand that thought on that level, on that layer expands. So the plants expand, the rocks expand. Now you're up here. So you get the basic understanding, but once you do, then it never stops there. It continuously grows. Now, I've been talking to rocks for a long time, so the expansion has slowed, but it hasn't stopped because I'm still learning, because I'm still aware that I can learn. Do I know everything? Oh, hell no. But I have to describe these things to folks, especially you folks who are listening, that listen, there is so much more than, and I'm being respectful here. These new age folks many of them are really trying, but because they've not had a shaman or a medicine man or woman actually show them the basics, they've got talents that they're drawing on, and they're very good, don't get me wrong, but that they still don't understand the basics yet. And when they get some of these basics and they allow themselves to expand those layers, for every layer that I get that, but then it sinks in and then it grows. And then as you share and you learn more, that sometimes the plant layer grows even further, where the rocks are like, they're kind of stable. But to the point though, you have to understand that these things are possible. So I question folks, and I would just simply put this bug in your ear as a friend to a friend. 12 is an arbitrary number in infinity. 12 steps to sober, 12-step program to 12 this, 12 that, 12 something, number. Frickin' society's got to put a number on everything. I'm speaking in layers because there are layers in water, there are layers in ice, there are layers in trees. So layers seems more like a more natural way to try to describe these dimensions or these lessons or these steps in something. It's the layers, all right? But at the end of it, what a really cool birthday cake it'll be. Anyway, I'm thinking layers in a cake. Okay, anyway, not necessarily birthday. There was something else Spirit wanted me to put out there. I think that I'm being asked a question. Maybe you guys did. I'm not looking. Can't pay attention yet. That why have people given things a number? Well, because we're used to it. But to the point, though, a bigger reasoning to that would simply be this. If somebody told you that there are infinite dimensions, you don't have, unless you can go through some of these basics that I discussed and understand really what I just discussed. And I'll be glad to discuss it with any of you. Somebody said something about me being a mentor. I've mentored many people. If any of you wish to have a one-on-one with me, there is no charge. There ain't no nothing. You want questions, you want to have a chat, it can be private. Fine. Let's do it on a hangout or something, or, whatever. And I understand that it is my duty as the medicine person that I am, to share this knowledge, to help people go over their own hurdles. It's not to prove to you that everybody else is wrong. No, it's to prove to you what's right in your own heart. That's what I'm about. It's not proving everybody else wrong. That's not it. But everybody else hasn't had the type of training that I have, or that true shamans have had. And nor they say, oh, well, that's really cool, but they just fluff over it. I mean, I go, come on, you guys, you at least got to stop and give them credit. Well, no, that's nice, but okay, now I'm going to do a reading, oh, blah, blah, 11th dimension, something, something. And I'm like, oh, man, you got to quantify something here. What if I told you you were on the 912,000th dimension in a 14 million point 25 quadrillion section of one of those tiny little Mandela thingies, and you were on a what? Would you no? So things have to be given numbers for our tiny little brains to understand. Now, I have been given the opportunity and the fortune to be shown what the universe is like. Now, some of these spider webs and things are seen in the electric universe. Each of the planets and everything, we're all connected with this spidery kind of stuff. And it's like, so my vision in 1971 and 2 of what this looked like, visions, and subsequent since then, but the primary ones were there. I get drawn back out there and go, let me show you a little bit more detail of this part over here. Okay, but the basic Mandela and the combination has been the same for these last 55 years of mine or so, or 50 years. We'll just leave it at that. Anyway, long time. And so the basics has never changed. It's except that they will take me in closer or show me a new section or a different understanding or the spider web thing between the spokes and between the Mandela rings and between the okay, but that everything hits a center point, and with that center point, that's what's connecting us all into this particular universe. Okay, and this particular universe could mean, and I don't mean galaxy, I mean universe, could be one of these. All of our galaxies, all of our everything that we see in the skies with all the telescopes, it's all in one of these. But this is just one of an infinite number of these as well. So these people who want it like, let's go back to the Big Bang, let's do all these other things, they're trying to quantify something. Everything is a hypothesis. And everybody's trying to like, no, but this is true. But no, it's true on Earth at this point, on this timeline, here and now. It's not true anywhere else in the freaking universe because it's too extensive. And you're trying to tell me that you're going to limit my thinking by giving me these, well, that's the mass of a star that we can watch. Let me bring this thing up to you. And I brought it up the other day, and I want to bring this to your reality. Some of the things that some of these scientists and so forth are trying to pawn off on us is that they know what the mass and density is of an object, such as the moons around Jupiter. Now, I submit to you, if I take 3 balls, one of them's a tennis ball, squishy, the next one's a baseball, kind of hard, and the next one is a cannonball, but they're all colored the same, they're all the same size, and I take them 100 yards out in the yard, and I put them on a board, and I give you a pair of binoculars, and I say, okay, tell me which one's the cannonball. Okay, I'm waiting. Which one's the cannonball? Well, I don't know. They're all the same size, and they're, all about the same distance. And okay, can you run a test on that? Well, what test am I going to run to see if one of them is an iron cannonball? Now, that's what these scientists are trying to do to us. They're trying to limit us. We know the density of that thing. Well, how do you know? Can you tell if I gave you that 3-ball scenario that was all the same size and color, etc., couldn't tell one from another, but one of them was hollow and light, and a cannonball that you couldn't even pick up. Okay, so that's what they're trying to tell us. They are trying to keep us in the matrix, if you will, and the matrix of this thought pattern that no, we know what all these things are. They don't know squat. And if they do, then they're using a science they're not sharing with you and me. Now, just had to say that. But now with the rest of this, though, from a spiritual side of this, everything that I did in all of my journey, when I went to the mountains, when I went to talk to trees, blah, 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 everything had an intent. My intent is to learn good. My intent is to find peace, harmony, etc. So whenever a true shaman walking in the light will, every step they take will be a prayer of love and honor and respect. I mean, I walk out in the yard and I'm afraid literally to step on the grass sometimes because I don't want to hurt it. And so I walk with intent. I know this is silly, but a true shaman understands that I might step on an ant or a beetle or kill it. I might not be able to see it, but if my true nature of source and soul is to not harm another being or anything, then I would be careful where I walk. That's how intense this is. And people wish to fluff it off. And I continue to say, you must explore this. You might not go out and try to freeze yourself to death or drown yourself. I ain't trying to go there, but you can test your own self. Do you have to have the temperature set at 72 degrees in your house? Put it on 65. You're going to save electricity. And I bet you in a few days, or maybe it might take a week, you're going to find out it ain't that bad. And you're saving electricity. Oh my God. So you're thinking about Mother Earth. You're thinking about something other than your own comfort. And when you get used to it, 65 ain't so bad. It's 60 here in the house. I'm fine. I'm actually hot. But anyway, but to the point though, it's like, okay, so can you test yourself? Yeah. Do you? And my friends down here in the South, all my family, they got these $250 light bills, and I'm like, well, I keep the house at 78 when I'm at work, and I'm like, why? When I get home, why don't you just turn it off, or set it at 85 or whatever. Oh, well, I don't want, when I get home, I got to turn it right down. I put it right down about 70, 72. And I'm like, you're in Florida. What? So when the lights go out and when a hurricane comes, everybody's freaking dying because they don't have their air conditioning. They don't have their comfort zone, which keeps everybody, it's 72, 75, maybe 78, same temperature all the time. And so it's like your body gets numb to everything else. It's not that's not natural. If you, in the natural world, it gets warm, it gets cooler, it gets hotter, it gets colder. Sometimes it gets really hot and sometimes it gets really cold. But it's a normal thing. It's a cycle of the body. And when you cheat the body out of that, it starts affecting other stuff in you. Well, I got to go over the temperature thing. Ooh, ooh, oh, it's now if it gets hot, I'm gonna sit in front of the fan, but I ain't turning on the air conditioner. Now the fan blowing across me helps me to cool down, but I'm an old person, and old people have a tendency to have hot spots. But to this point, I can still deal with it. Even as bad at high temperatures as it got, sometimes I'm still here. I didn't die, but I did use a fan, okay. I did use cool water. Yeah. Okay. Drench off with some cool water. Yeah. There are things you can do. But if you don't test yourself, if you don't allow yourself to even pursue those kinds of things, then how are you going to know what your true spirit is? They are connected. And so being a true shaman explores all of the above. There is an infinite number of everything. Can you count the tree? Oh, wait. Can you count the leaves on all of the trees? No. To us, in a lot of ways, it would be an infinite number, even though it isn't because there are so many trees. But in trying to count them, it would almost be infinitely impossible, because some trees will lose their leaves and some are growing them. There's how many, so you could speculate, but it doesn't matter, because if you understand that there are trees in other realms, there are trees in other realities, there are trees in other dimensions on different timelines, on different Mandalas, there are an infinite amount of trees, trees, but there are an infinite amount of leaves on the trees as well. So it's like, but can you think that far out? Can you allow your dimensions to expand to the infinite? And so that's kind of where I'm at with this in my proposal. It's that But folks say, well, they want me to go back to church. And I'm like, you go ahead. I'm not, people need that kind of thing, but I'm so past that. And they think, well, I'm trying to stick my chest out and go, well, what? You think you know it all? But no, come into my reality. Let me explain, like I am now, what I understand, what I feel in my bones and in my heart and in my soul. These things, if you wish for me to put my faith back in a church, I'm backing up. And I can't, because I've already experienced what the infinite is. It's infinite. And that's what I've experienced. I mean, I haven't been able to experience it all because it's infinite. But the thing is that there it is, you know? And so, but if folks, there's 12D and there's 5D, and okay, all right, fine. That's just in one tiny little realm that 12 exists. Expand your mind to even further, because that's really what it's about. In this thing and what all these folks are trying to put up, and everybody's trying to, it's more than 12. Now, let me take a drink of coffee and come over here and say hi to everybody, whoever else is here. Marie, Supernatural, you just tuned in, wherever that was. Let me come back up here. I got like dry mouth big time. I don't know how some folks are like, and I mean this with utmost of respect, because at one time I had this same realization many years ago. I thought I really had a handle on some of this stuff. And then I realized, oh shit, it was just a layer. And there was a whole crap load above that. So I limited myself by saying, I think I got it, and I didn't really. And so there for a short time, I wasn't really stuck, but I was, because I thought I kind of knew it all at the time. Oh man, there's a pair. Couldn't find my glasses. So let me just say hi, Quartz. I don't know who else is still in here. There must be more. Absolutely. Interesting you say that, David. Learning about crystal. My eldest son brought me home some crystals as his dad goes fossiling. I got you. I need them to learn about crystals. Yes. I was in lucid state one morning and I could hear bells. I woke wondering where they'd come from, and sounded like exactly like you have now. Clarified for me. Yeah, hide in the trees and play hide and seek. Blaze Paranormal, some of those divers can hold their breath for 10 minutes plus. Absolutely. Talk about control, to the point of going way back in the conversation. But see, there is a spiritualness to those divers too. I mean, there is a connection between those kinds of things that it's just really difficult to separate. I mean, I applaud these people who dive in icy cold water and swim around. I can't do that, but okay, but I get it. I remember as a child like you, much of the same came naturally, then life happened. Okay, be back, blending back in with Mother Earth. You want to remember what you forgot, what we've all forgotten. Absolutely. Stay awoke. Nice to see you again live, brother. Same here. Greetings, family and everybody. Supernatural, hello. Somebody seems to have pretty well mastered body control, sits in freezing temps for hours. Now that is amazing. They call him the Iceman. Yes. Now to say that, one of the things that I've done when I went on one of my winter camping trips up to the North Georgia mountains, Tennessee, North Carolina, South Carolina, up in that area, up in the Southern Appalachians, been around a lot up there. But I was up there one time and was doing some meditating and built a fire. And I mean, it didn't get above freezing that whole day we were there. So, we started out when the sun went down, it was 30 degrees, and there was ice forming in our canteens, right? Had to keep shaking the canteen so the water wouldn't freeze. But to the point, though, I started into a meditation, and I was able, through whatever it was. Now I had my long johns on, and I had a long sleeve shirt and an undershirt, so it wasn't like I didn't have anything on. But I was not prepared for like 13 degrees. Okay, I was okie dokie when I was moving and not sitting still at 30 degrees. Okay, I was okay. But anyway, so I go into my meditative state, and I don't know, hours go by, and I floated up into the mountains, and I could see all of the fires in the different places in the national forest that night. And all of a sudden, someone came up to me. I didn't hear them because I was up in the trees, touched my shoulder, and I came crashing down to earth and into my body. And I mean, that shit hurt. And I went from no cold, no feeling, no nothing, total bliss, to, oh, Jesus Christ, I'm freezing to death. And I was like one to punch this person out, and they had gotten lost looking for the something, I don't know. And I was like, oh man. And it took me several hours of jumping up and making a fire to even get the chills off of me. But while I was in that meditative state, it was beautiful. But when I hit the ground back, man, that cold came back on like it was forever. Can't chat without my glasses. Yeah, that works. Uh, Heat is good for arthritic bones, yes, but to the point though, I mean, it's cold in the house, but if I think warm, my hands aren't cold and my arthritis doesn't bother me. So there are a lot of things that are changing with these new energies and so forth, as I've discussed before. And one of the things is that too many people are limiting themselves in what they can actually do. That's the magic that we all possess. And so, with that said, it's been about 2 hours with this. I love you all greatly. I got some butt cramps that won't quit at the moment in my glutamus maximus back here. I need to walk around and stretch. But I just had to get on here and have this conversation. I want everybody to learn how that there's so much more to this. So basically, to wrap this up, if you just consider that there's only 12, please, I beg you, accept that there is more. Accept the infinite number in so many ways, because as soon as we start limiting our thoughts to where we can be or where we have been, or however you wish to put it, then it limits us as beings in and of ourselves. So let's keep our magic. So I send out hugs from a rainy, semi-chilly South Georgia. Well, it's morning now at 1:27 on a Tuesday morning. So I send always my blessings. You humble me with your questions and hanging out with me. And I hope that you will continue to, hey, David, thanks for sharing, and have a good night. Absolutely. You as well. Marie, everyone, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I just hope that anything that I have spoken about will make a difference in your own life. And it's not so much that you have to follow and do what I say, but follow and do what's in your own heart, what comes from Creator to you. So my closing prayer, as always, I love you all. I send you all what blessings I have. I send you the healings and the blessings from Creator into your way. And I pray that every one of you will accept and receive these blessings for you, your family, all of your kin, and all of your friends and neighbors. Share the infinite knowledge that's in the universe. That's what's been teaching me about some of these things. And you have allowed me to come and speak to you about them. So again, I am always humbled with your love and your concern and the prayers you send me back, and know that I send you the same. So from every day from here, I send you back the love. Been a while since I walked into town without my shoes on. Got a blister. I hate those blisters, man. The pain Anyway, but Marie, and to all of you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And blessings from the infinite creator. And I got to go stretch my poor old butt out here. Now I got a cramp.